3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Dear Venerable Sirs, dear Dhamma friends, today is the first day in our retreat, and we have allocated around 1 hour for each day for a Dhamma talk, and now we are preparing to start that. And the topic suggested was the Sabbasava Sutta, that is you find in the middle length sayings, that is Majjhima Nikaya, that is appearing as the second particular discourse. It's a fairly long one. But I doubt whether we can completely cover the whole talk, whole content of the sutta, the discourse during this retreat. But the early part of it, the particular discourse is very important as well as relevant to the meditation. And therefore, we will take time as much as possible to get the message of the Buddha in order to facilitate our meditation. The particular sutta is known as Sabbasava Sutta, been translated as all taints, that mental taints or mental influxes, how it happens. So therefore the content, that means namely the asava, or all taints, Sabbasava, is not a directly possible, visible thing to be tackled. Often it appears like a perverted form, is in a twisted form. Therefore one has to be very prepared, one can't do it overnight, one has to do long endurance in order to understand the subject as well as to take the situation under control. The Buddha, during the time of the discourse, he was in the Savatthi, and this discourse happening as an initiative of the Buddha himself. As far as the reasons are concerned, there are many reasons. Sometimes some cases happen, some question arises, and accordingly the Buddha deliver kind of a appropriate discourses. But this one came out of as his own suggestion. He says, Sabbasava Samvara Pariyayam Bhikkhave Deshisami. O monks, I am going to deliver a discourse on the restrainment of all the taints. And as I mentioned, the taints, that is the term used in the English rendering. The Pali term is asava. Sometimes it is translated as influxes, or that it means that these are the way our mind get influenced by these influxes. So to understand that, the Buddha going to give a systematic way, gradual way, how to start. The first and foremost, he says, O monks, I will declare any kind of restrainment, any kind of mastery, any kind of controlling of these asavas, or that means taints, possible only for those who see them and know them. I never prescribe this method for those who do not know and those do not see. So this is the starting point, and there the Buddha asks what knows and what sees, that he refers. He introduced the technical term, the Yoniso Manasikara, that means wise reflection in the normal translation. One of my teachers used to translate it as a radical reflection, kind of a abrupt or electric, impromptu kind of reflection. With such a thing only we can understand the the role of change, the role of influx, which is happening in our rut, which is happening in our normal way of life, due to our likings and disliking. If you wish to see these influxes, you must have a kind of a radical or the impromptu kind of reflection that is normally translated as wise reflection. So those who are ready to accept this challenge of the Buddha and learn and then reflect in this wise way are bound to see and bound to know. Others, those who have no that kind of a systematic understanding and systematic approach, they also may claim in every phenomena, in every experience, they also claim they see, they know. But here the Buddha says this reflection has wise method and unwise method. Unless otherwise one is well advised, well prepared, often he or she take this unwise method. So therefore one has to listen, one has to radically reflect or deduce one thing and then keep on practicing, so that slowly one may reach this wise reflection, that's radical reflection. Then he or she bound to see phenomena or the event, whatever happening under very nose, in a different way, in a radical way, electric way, impromptu way. Then only at least one can understand, according to your approach, according to your perception, things you are seeing, things you are knowing have many facets, at least many facets. That is the first groundbreaking task, and that appear not much religious, that appear not much spiritual, appear like scientific and a radical way. So that is the difference among the other masters. The Buddha, he himself reflected upon and observed upon, and 1,001 times, then only he came to know, if you are observing one thing again and again, then there is a kind of a evolution, kind of a development towards that particular thing or particular phenomena or particular experience. Then one has to accept. More and more you observe, there is a kind of a change in the perception. Basically, more and more you observe, more and more you are bound to see and bound to know. Without that, if you are just observing superficially and arriving at a decision quickly, most of the decisions, most of the foundations are not lasting, because your observation is incomplete. Therefore, your criterion are challengeable due to its changing nature. So therefore it is not enduring. So that is why the Buddha, this method, in this particular sutta, he says, more and more you observe before arriving at a decision, before take any kind of a judgmental this thing, more and more observation lead to more and more knowledge, and there you will understand, as and when you keep on observing one thing, your perception differs, even though the phenomena is the same. Even though the thing you are observing is the same, your perception is changing. In addition to that, sometimes the phenomena itself is changing. The object itself is changing. So then only it becomes this kind of a multidimensional complexity. So there you will be a silent, neutral observer rather than a person who is rushing toward a decision. This way we can understand the wise reflection. Wise reflection is you are more observing than rushing to a decision. Unwise reflection, comparatively, one can say, observe just superficially and rushing to a decision and trying to safeguard that particular decision. Ultimately, he or she has to perish. She has to suffer because she get committed by these decisions based upon superficial kind of evidence, superficial kind of observation. So therefore, continuous application of the mind to the same phenomena for a long time easily could be defined or could be summarized as meditation. When that come into being, observing the same thing for a long time, slowly the spirituality, the religious nature come into being. So these discourses have, in that sense, three kind of results. One thing, those who are just read the discourse in terms of intellectual biased, intellectual based, they will get kind of a rationality, kind of an idea according to their background. The second part is the rational reflection, rationalization and deductive knowledge. They can go a little further than the just book knowledge and the theory knowledge. But the meditators, we can have all the three perspectives. We can get the theoretical knowledge, we can get kind of a reflective knowledge or deductive knowledge, and not stopping at that level. If you take this instruction into your heart and keep put into practice, there you will get a direct touch of this teaching. So how can we apply this yoniso manasikara, this radical reflection or wise reflection, into our meditation? There only we can understand whether we have really got the message and whether we are really put into our day-to-day life. For example, if you all agree that we are practicing sitting meditation, for example, and try to observe the sitting posture, and then further you go to the breathing process, and sometimes you may see the touching point at the end of the nostrils. You can see each and every in-breath and out-breath, and you try to keep the attention as long as possible. But of course, at the beginning, you have to embark a real fight in order to keep the attention in face-to-face with this primary object. Because of our monkey mind, it is a mad monkey mind, jumping from one object to the other, is always waiting for sounds to happen, pains to happen, or otherwise thinking. So therefore it is often get distracted. So first you have to get the elimination procedure, and then some or the other develop familiarity, some or the other develop kind of a close observation with the in-breath and out-breath. So when you are observing the in-breath and out-breath, as far as it is gross, as far as it is attractive, as far as it is just at the under your nose, and when it is happening here now presently, the beginner can manage. But when you are keep on observing, there are many facets, many things more undeniably related to this very in-breath and out-breath. For example, if you are to keep on going, as and when the body become calm, as and when the mind become calm, the breath also become subtler, and you find the gross nature of the rubbing sensation becomes subtler and subtler as you keep on practicing. More and more you keep the attention face to face with the breath becomes subtle. And sometimes you don't really feel at the particular touching point, you feel like it is moving sometimes outwardly or inwardly, sometimes other places of the body. So touching point also moving like. And sometimes the appearing breath, incoming, outgoing breath appear very pleasant as an achievement, and you are happy. And more you to observe, there is a time, breath is there, but it is not much attractive. You have no much appreciation, even the breath is happening. So likewise it has other facets. Sometimes you see breath is slowly disappearing. It was prominent and disappearing. Sometimes you see breath is not much prominent, but it is slowly becoming gross. Sometimes it appears. While you are observing, it is gross and present. So likewise, many facets are there. So when you keep on practicing only, you will understand many of the facets, the beginner will reject, thinking this is not related to the primary object. Even though it's an attribution of the same object, due to the unfamiliarity, due to the uninstructed mind, he or she will they reject even the under the nose experience of in-breath, telling this is not related to in-breath, this is something wrong. To give some example, sometimes it's a somewhat informal kind of example. While you are keep on practicing with in-breath and out-breath, some astray thoughts come and play in the background. So, uninstructed beginners often get worried, thinking my mind is not solely face-to-face with the primary object, namely the in-breath and out-breath. Instead, I am thinking. And therefore, disheartening, getting discouraged. But if he or she being instructed to observe while the thoughts are playing in the background, if you are directing your attention to the breath, you can have the breath amidst of these inert kind of thoughts. But if you are going to take the thought seriously due to your discouraged or disappointed approach, the thoughts become train thoughts or chain thoughts. They become meaningful and they come into being. But if you are going to give a proper attention instead to the primary object, namely the in-breath and out-breath, the thoughts are there, it is in the background, they have no meaning. They are not coming each other as a chain or train. So therefore they are slowly disappearing. So when such thing happens, uninstructed yogis are always getting challenged, always discouraging due to these astray thoughts, due to this inert kind of thoughts. But if you have the proper attention or wise attention, you can understand, you can make use this situation in order to reinforce, in order to make the mindfulness more steadfast, so that you can develop kind of immunity even with little bit of inner thoughts, bit of background thoughts, never mind. If you have the proper wise attention, still you can keep the track with the primary object. Exactly the same you can say background sounds are there. For example, you are sitting by a waterfall or near a railway station or near a the beach, seashore, you can see that sounds are coming and going. So each and every time the sound, the prominency, the intensity, sound increases, you feel like the breath is disappearing, your mind is getting succumbed to these sounds, and there you get disappointed. But if you go prepared, even the midst of sounds, breathing happens, whether your attention is there or not. Of course, sometimes the sound intensity is very high, therefore mind easily give up and come out and complain, telling, I lost in these sounds and I can't maintain the mindfulness with the breath like. But if you have a wise reflection or wise attention, you can see amidst of these sounds, to a certain extent, you can maintain the relationship with the breath. And later you will understand these sounds are not coming to addressing you. It is not calling you, they are just sounds. They are easily, you can say, sounds are not disturbing you. You are the very person disturbing sounds. So wise attention helps you to see through them. Of course, you will tackle slight sounds, not very appealing, not very distracting, not very intensive like. So whatever may be, ultimately sounds going to reinforce your mindfulness. Sound going to give a challenge for your mindfulness to have a continuous attention with the primary object, despite the increasing and decreasing intensity of sounds. And from the time beginning, and the body is issuing some kind of signals to the pains, bodily pains. But you don't care. At the beginning, you pay the attention to the in-breath and out-breath. After 15-20 minutes, what happens is the intensity of pain, intensity of feelings, slowly prop up, increasing. And they are easily, if you have no wise attention, if you have no radical kind of approach, you will easily give up. That means to get up and go. But instead, after long time, so after listening to a talk, after a good Dhamma discussion, or after your radical reflection, if you are to see the pains, here what I pain is the feelings. Feelings are always there. As far as they are bearable, not throbbing, not challenging, amidst of pain, amidst of feelings, you can have a continuity of observation, attention to the breath. So therefore basic three distractions, namely thoughts, sounds, pain, as and when it arises, you must not think to get disappointed and give up and go. Instead you have to try to see, amidst of all these little distractions, can I maintain the attention, the reflection, the adverting of the mind to the primary object. So if you are taking this message in such a challenging way, go prepared. Slowly what happens is, amidst of these all, you can see the in-breath and out-breath, not up to the maximum marks, but just to maintain the continuity. We say such a yogi, such a person, get a conducive situation, very supportive situation where there is no much of thoughts, where there is no much of sounds, no much of bodily pains, and he or she can keep the breath as the primary and sole object face to face with. Under such circumstances also, when the breath become to a certain extent gross, only your tactile sensitivity of the skin going to recognize it as a sensation. There you feel like as if all of a sudden you come to know, now I feel the in-breath. And to a certain extent, to a little period of time, you feel the rubbing sensation and it ceases to exist. And then after a little while, the out-breath come into being. And then out-breath ceases to exist. And you can find a gap in between. Even there is no thoughts, no sounds, no pain, there is a gap. But our mind is blind to it. It never understands the gap. It understands the rubbing sensation of the in-breath and out-breath only once it comes up to a certain gross feeling, gross rubbing, gross sensation. Because our mind is not armed with mindfulness and the concentration. What happens is, as and when you practice, keep on developing the mindfulness and the concentration, you can catch the very breath one thought moment before disappearing. And once it is, you see the middle and go to the end, still you can see the lingering feelings, how the gross thing gives rise to the subtlety, and ultimately mind says no feeling. And after a gap, you can see just emerging out-breath. And it also go through the middle and ending to the very subtle tapering off, very subtle ending. And these things were not familiar, not considered as progress of your meditation, as far as your mindfulness and the concentration is not strong enough. And therefore, when and where the mindfulness and the concentration increases, you can see the very subtle beginning and the very subtle end. If you are not prepared, if you are not ready with mindfulness, if you are not ready with the concentration, your mind has simply no that capacity, because it understands only the gross signals, gross sensations. But as the mindfulness and the concentration increases, it becomes very vigilant, very diligent, and mindful as and when the object arises, and never give up. Soon it becomes leave the gross sensation, but still go behind and see how this grossness gives rise to the subtlety, and then the gap, and then again subtle start of the out-breath, the middle, end. Likewise, more and more you can see the wave of in-breath and out-breath. For example, in the early morning in the dawn, toward the end of the night, no light, so therefore you can't see images very clearly. When the sun rises, when the sun dawn happens, you can see more and more light comes, and there you can see very subtle movements and the images of the trees, birds, and other kind of thing. So we monks, Buddha has asked, our day start at the dawn. So at the dawn, what is the intensity that you have to take? Up to that it is night, and then now onward it is the day. He says, if you can see a stalk of a leaf, such a tiny thing, that is the time you have to understand this is the dawn. And you stretch your hand and see your lines on your palm under the light of the rising sun, that is the time we can say the rising of the dawn. So what I am going to say is, as the light intensity increases, the object become more and more prominent. Exactly the way when the mindfulness and the concentration increases, you can see very, very subtle thing. Earlier you have recognized as unperceivable, unseeable, unknowable. So therefore, first in the Anapanasati or in this in-breath and out-breath, what you do is avoiding the pain, avoiding the thoughts, avoiding the sounds. You try to keep the relationship with, keep the familiarity with the breath. And as and when you go there, if you are lucky to keep this distraction and associate the primary object more and more, whether you like it or not, mindfulness develops, concentration develops. Over there, there's nothing to stop your observation. You have to rather focus more and more diligent focusing and precise aiming towards the beginning of the in-breath and through the middle to the last drop of in-breath. And same vigilance you have to wait to the oncoming out-breath. Through the middle, you have to go to the last drop, how it tapering off to the out-breath, end of the out-breath. Likewise, you can see diligence is a kind of a light, negligence is a kind of a darkness. Any phenomena, any experience, any event, if you observe without the diligence and the vigilance, you see only the gross part, only the middle. You never see the beginning of the event. You are not patient enough to see the end of the event. And with that little understanding of the middle of the event, if you are going to claim, I see, I know, I am going to take a decision because this is my first-hand experience, of course you have your full rights to say like that, but the Buddha will never second your suggestion. Because he knows you are not you are not observing with the diligence, you are negligent to see the early part of the phenomena. You are not patient enough to see the end of the phenomena, but you are rushing toward the decision. Such a thing we call unwise reflection. And unwise reflection never allows you to see the taints, your liking and disliking, how you color your conclusion, and your personality traits, how it is coloring your inferential knowledge, and how you are brought up, the culture, and all the kind of thing going to give a coloration to your decision. So therefore, if someone going to say your decision is with the little observation and with the colored mind, with the perception, definitely you will get hurt. You will come out and say, how the hell you can complain me? I am talking with my direct experience. I saw it, I know it, all the kind of thing. So therefore, second man involvement is disturbing your personality. Don't you get irritated? So therefore, the Buddha says, don't go for the second man. You have to employ the mindfulness, the diligence, and it is within you. It's another mental factor. So, doing all the kind of good or bad, meditation, or walking, or day-to-day, keep the mindfulness something like a video camera. Keep it open so that you can see performances. And whenever problem happen, what you can do is, you can get the clip and do action replay slow motion. And you can see how was your performances. So therefore, mindfulness is the most proximate factor for this wise reflection, because mindfulness gives a neutral kind of observation, and you are the observer, you are the person performing, you are the person ultimately draw the conclusion also. So therefore, system becomes self-sufficient within. That is the way the mindfulness helps to give a clear picture about the thing. In a sense, you are observing yourself in a critical way, never always approving way. That critical thing is the what I recognize as a radical kind of a reflection. In last time also, when I come to Canada, I tried to cite this example, but you will not be happy because you all are not much cricket fans. You know, in Sri Lanka we have the game cricket. Am I allowed to give some example of cricket? You know about it? You know? Cricket? Yes. In the cricket, there are a lot of decisions has to take when the game is going on. There are two umpires are there, leg umpire and the main umpire. That was the case. But what happened was, the home party or the visiting party, one or the other will challenge the umpire. And then the game is all of a sudden we have to go to an administrative part rather than the cricket. Because the umpire's decision is being challenged. Because he is having the human error. He is either biased to the home party or to the visiting party because he is human. But one of the Sri Lankan suggested about the third umpire. You know the third umpire? It's a video camera. Now third umpire is accepted by the World Cricket Organization, and everywhere the video cameras are there. So we'll say a catch or any out to happen, one appeal, and the umpire is passing his judgment. And if when and where any challenging or questioning happens, everyone has to agree that they have to go to the video clip, action replay, slow motion. And when that happens, no one can challenge, because the camera has no personal error, human error. So whenever the camera happens, all the three parties has to agree. The person who committed the mistake, person passed the judgment, the person who appealed. So mindfulness is our video camera. You have to keep the open all the time. So therefore, whenever the mindfulness come out and say, you can't challenge, because mindfulness is such an unbiased mental factor. And this also should not happen in one event. It has to keep on practicing. The same thing again you have to observe. Again you have to observe. After long observation only you get a kind of a set of information, quite unbiased, and you can believe upon. So therefore, whenever you are giving a value, consideration to the mindful, the radical reflection or wise reflection, you must be fully armed with mindfulness. Because mindfulness is going to give unbiased witness, unbiased observation, untiring manner. Otherwise, what happened is, whether you like it or not, your observation is neglected, delayed, because your sensitivity to the phenomena, unbiased sensitivity, is not prepared. It is always see the phenomena once the beginning is finished. You only see the middle, and you are not waiting to see the end. So ultimately, your decision is based upon the direct touch. Definitely, yes. I mean, under the nose experience, but you see only the middle. With that, only these conclusions, inferential, and the decision, the deductive knowledge happen. The Buddha simply, he suggests, okay, while doing it, don't let the phenomena come up to the gross level, nip it at the bud level. Just see the breathing, for example, how the in-breath sets in, how it comes into being, how subtle it is, from the point where there is no air transaction, and soon the air transaction happen, our sensitivity of the skin is not enough to pass signals. But that does not indicate there is no action, there is no transaction. Therefore, you have to understand, once that our skin, the sensitive tactile the sensor, become titillated, that means the sensation, the touching has come to a certain gross level, otherwise it won't. So mindfulness should not wait till the sensation arises. It must be prepared. It must be vigilant. It must be diligent and be observant over there. This observation is the only one going to give the beginning of the phenomena. And once the gross touching sensation, heat, cold, stiffness, tension, movements, whatever may be, when it ceases to exist, you must not withdraw your observation capacity, your mindfulness. You must be fully vigilant, observing to see how the phenomena ceases to exist. And then slowly, after a gap, it is going to give the out-breath, and out-breath to in-breath. When you are in the walking meditation, how the beginning of middle and the end of the right leg, and then shifting into the left leg, the beginning, middle and end. And once you come up to this kind of observation, in the day-to-day activities also, your observation will be widespread, simply to see the beginning, the middle and the end. So therefore, if one to give the definition for the mindfulness, it will say, be here and now. Mindfulness be here and now. And how the mindfulness going to give the insight meditation is, this very observation of here and now going to show the phenomena not only by the middle, it will add two more information. It will add the beginning of the phenomena, the middle of the phenomena, end of the phenomena. That is yet another definition for the insight. And throughout that means beginning, middle and end, must not be rushed with the decision. So your observation must be non-judgmental. Judgmental mind is the one get affected by the stains, by the likings and disliking, by your rut, by your personality, by your culture, everything. But the Buddha says, only the human mind, which is in the highest level of the evolution, have still some more windows to open. They can observe the phenomena in partial way, observe the phenomena in a choiceless way, evenly suspended way. Therefore, your decisions are always suspended. That is not the inefficiency of you. That means you are not committed to rush a decision. Once you committed, pass a judgment, you have to safeguard it. Then only you do all the dirty things. to safeguard the decision you have taken, telling this is my decision, this is my liking, this is my culture, this is what the way I have to do life. But the Buddha says that is the point, that is the starting point of the suffering. The phenomena is completely extroverting, but soon you pass a decision, hooked up with, or get committed with, then whenever the things go impermanent, uncontrolled, and you have to suffer, because you have to you have to stand by, you have to safeguard it, you are committed. So mindfulness and this insight meditation or radical reflection in the sense of yoniso manasikara, telling you to see the phenomena, see the mechanism rather than getting committed into the decision. So when that kind of thing happens, if we are seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, tasting and thinking, if the whole mind is fully multitask involvement, you will never see the mechanism. For example, if you wish to observe a generator when it is functioning, here 230, 110 voltage, in Sri Lanka 230, if you are going to meddle with, you will get the shock. So what you have to do is you have to close down the machine. Slow down the machine, and then only you can understand. One part is the energy development, that is the rotating, driving part. Other one is the driven part. From the driven part only you develop the electricity, and they have so much of cogwheels, cams, mechanism, all the kind of thing. So if you wish to see how this machine is working, just by removing of the hull, you can't see it. To slow down. So that is why the Buddha says, if you on principles, if you accept that our decisions, our likings and disliking are all colored by these stains, and still if you wish to understand, restrain them, you have to slow down the machine. That is why it says, go to a silent place, close your eyes, don't entertain smelling, don't entertain talking and tasting. Don't do any kind of intentional work. Settle down the body, calm and quiet, balance and relax, and the fully diligent, fully vigilant, fully mindfully observe the body. So thoughts happens, sounds, pains. When and where that takes place, you are just observing as a neutral observer, a distance observer, with the choiceless awareness, how it happens. At the beginning you have to accept, as I mentioned in the earlier, at the beginning mindfulness is not well mobilized, not well in the full-fledged. So therefore, early, a lot of difficulties, a lot of friction, a lot of the alignment is not much continuous. So patiently, when you keep on practicing, you will see sometimes the breath come into being. And if you are going to keep the mindfulness on the breath, as and when the mindfulness and the breath become, and the object of observation and the observing mind become closer and closer, then you are bound to see the very subtle starting part of the breath, very subtle cessation part of the in-breath, and the subtle starting of the out-breath, and then the middle and the subtle the cessation part of the out-breath, like the unseen. Earlier the gross mind can't see, but when the mind becomes calm and quiet, you are bound to see. So still you are not qualified to pass the judgment. Now just you will understand the phenomena is in such a flux. More and more observation going to give the complete picture. But our hectic mind, untrained mind, always rushing to a decision to claim that I see, that I know. And the Buddha says, more and more you observe, more and more you are to see how the phenomena, the superficial approach, the middle approach, and the ultimatum. The superficial one we call the conventional truth. The conventional truth is the what we call the worldly knowledge. That is with only the carnal eye and the sensations. But when the sensations are become restrained, and if you see through, that means you are observing mind and the observer, the object, once you become very close, there is a very dramatic point, mind can penetrate into the object. Once penetration happens, your observation unbelievably, completely changing, radical change is going to take place. Nowadays, when the chemistry, physics and the biology come into being, three subjects went into different entities and different units, and they start to categorize the human world, the animal world, the non-living world, the chemical world, physical world, and all the kind of things. When we are going to school, that means in 60s, 70s, each and every subject has a very concrete charts and all the kind of thing. But what happened whenever the more and more telescope and more and more microscope come into being, they found these units are not the ultimate, and they can be still breakable. And went deep into that. As and when they go, the early charts they put up is challenged. And ultimately all the molecule is the smallest, and then the atom, and then subatomic, and ultimately they went into the subatomic particle to the quantum. And the moment the quantum come into being, the atom and subatomic particle became classical physics. The quantum only became the modern physics. Now the most difficult part is the quantum physics can't believe or depend on their theories on the classical physics because they are outdated now. And now quantum physics has to come out with completely different paradigm, new definitions, new theories, all the kind of thing. From the Buddhist point of view, this is the transaction from the conventional truth, and we are at the doorstep of the absolute truth. When and where you go to the absolute truth, of course your ego and your center, the observer's center is destroyed. But this physics on this scientific thing is just like observing the superficial thing, and you go into it with the concentration and the mindfulness, you completely see exactly the same thing, completely different way. Earlier, therefore, they told these are mystics. Therefore, they rejected the religion. They told Buddha is a magician, he is talking something unbelievable thing. But now, the science has to take the refuge of Buddha, take the refuge of the discourses. And they say, even without so much of sophisticated equipments, Buddha saw it. He saw not only the superficial conventional truth, and he not rejected the very thing also. What he is suggesting was to see through. To see through, they are not necessary to have any gadget. No telescope, microscope. You have to observe the very thing, the breath or tip of your nose, but 1001 times. 1001 times, more and more you see, what happens is, the convention will be see-through, go through, due to the already developed and increasing trend of the mindfulness and the concentration, unbelievably things are going to change. Going to change, not into the shape, not into the manner. It's a complete paradigm, something like particle change into energy slide. As far as the particle is concerned, it has a shape, it has a manner, it is subject to the force of gravity. Moment it becomes energy, no shape, no manner, not subjected to the gravity. Exactly as far as you see the breath as my in-breath, my out-breath, gross, subtle, all the kind of thing, you have to say is the most gross level of conventional truth. More and more you go to the beginning, the very subtle beginning of the in-breath, and through the middle to the very subtle the end of the in-breath, you see these feelings have no any notion whether it is my or yours, in or out, good or bad, cool or heat. All these things are due to the tense. All these things are due to the observer's coloration. But the observer is believing his or her coloration, therefore at the beginning more than the real feelings he or she report, come to be, and claim to have observed is mostly the taints. But as I mentioned, if someone is challenging you, you will get irritated, you will hurt, feeling that how can one come and say, my observation is wrong, my knowledge is wrong. Instead, the Buddha says, without challenging, okay, observe the same thing again and again, with vigilance. Don't let nip it at the bud level. As and when it arises, and when it is cessation. So then, to the middle, the gross part that you have observed already, you get 2 more additional information, the beginning of the phenomena, end of the phenomena. So now you know from the beginning through the middle to the end, ultimately unbelievably you have to accept it. This is the way you see through the convention and go slowly into the absolutes. When you go to the absolutes, what happens is particle become energy, or likewise your breath becomes just yet another feeling. The breath is at the beginning is a material. The air element come and touch on the sensitivity of your skin. And there you can see the materiality. Skin is a material, air is material. But if you keep on observing, the in-breath, out-breath difference happens through the feelings. Feeling is not a material, it is something completely mental. And that feeling is colored by the perception. In the cool air, the cool climate, the warm air in-breath is good. But in the warm climate, the cool air is good, comfortable. Like things are changing from place to place. Things are changing from morning to the evening. Things are not only the morning, from the beginning to the middle to the end also changing. So, if you are ready to accept this changing nature, that means changing nature becomes manifested as and when you go to the tiniest possible particle. Or otherwise you have to say thin slicing of the time. You have to cut the slice the time as thin as possible. That means slight beginning and how it grows according to chronological order to the middle, and then it's how ceases into the nothingness. So space and time has to cut into the as thin as possible, for that all the other variables must be fixed. Eye must be completely silent, ear must be completely inactive, hearing, smelling, tasting, other touchings, another thinking, fantasizing. If you observe one thing at a time, that done well, more and more what happens is you come closer and closer. More and more you come and closer, you are getting different perspective of the same thing. And then you will now, if you ask that how many hours you are meditating per day and why you are not meditating, you will come out with and say many excuses telling you have this interest, that interest, this responsibility, that responsibility, and pressures of the time. But if you are to observe the whatever may be the object, rising and falling, or breath, or the left and the right, or in the day-to-day, more and more you close, that is so dramatic, ultimately you will forego any other job and try to keep mindfulness, vigilance as much as possible, because it is the most dynamic thing. It is the most interesting thing, mobilizing your energies, developing your seeing capacity and knowing capacity enormously. So this whole phenomena you can put it in the simple way. If you are not mindful, if you are not radically reflecting, if you are not see through the inside vipassana, you are simply extrovert. When and where the mindfulness comes, when and where the radical reflection happens, when and where the insight happens, you become introvert. That is why this meditation is known as insight meditation. Our whole knowledge, extrovert, outwardly. The Buddha is inviting you at least to give 50% chance or 50% opportunity to understand who am I. What is the experience of the present moment? Not a single human being tried this and give a successful answer. You know why? One thing is that no one trying this. Second thing is, when you are going to see, who am I and what is the present moment, very observer become dissolved and finished. The Buddha is the one first came to know there is no such a center as I. There is no such a center as mind. There is no center as ego. This is due to these taints only. You claim this is as this is mine, and this is ego. But if you try to just simply assume as a neutral observer, ultimately you will understand not only the observation, object of observation is undergoing a evolution, the particular observer also undergoing a evolution. So therefore the Buddha says, if you are to take the subject of understanding of the taints, that you have to develop, you have to understand the radical reflection, the wise reflection. Unless otherwise you have to accept you are in unwise reflection, you are delayed, and you are working with so much of likings and dislikes. And the moment you come into this wise reflection, you will find that 7 kind of asavas, 7 kind of taints. The first and foremost is the asava, the taints that you can get rid of just mere by observation, by seeing the things as they are. If you do not see, if you do not know, what happens is you accept untruth as the truth. Moment you see, you understand the truth as truth, untruth as untruth. Therefore, you are naturally liberated. So therefore, the Krishnamurti, one of the thinkers in the India, of course he was rather contemporary, he says that in the mist, in the dusk or in the dawn, when you are walking, that is also not a good example here, but in the tropical countries, you may be about to step on a poisonous snake. They are just like roots, or they are just like other particles of the ground. So you may, simple thing, because that is the time they are active. So he says, just before touching, just before tramping it, if you see it, if you know it, definitely you know what to do. And Krishnamurti is asking, if you find to see poisonous snake just minute before keeping your leg, should there have any person to teach you to run into the right direction or north direction or which direction? It is inbuilt, he says. Soon you know if you are going to step upon, you know what is going to happen. Then for the sake of safety, the mechanism is just a simple body knowledge. So therefore, how is not the question, how to do, but see the danger as it is. So therefore the Buddha says, each and every thought moment is precious. Each and every moment is a cross-section. So don't lose it just mere by negligence, just mere by unmindfulness. Instead, try to be diligent as much as possible. But starting point, you have to fix a lot of variables, because this mind and the other thing is very tricky. So that's why the sitting meditation is, we are fixing all the variables and try to focus justly on the matter, justly on the body. When in the walking, little bit of observation, seeing, hearing, smelling, other things happen. Still try to observe diligently as much as possible. In the day-to-day, nothing, no variable is fixed. Everything is very in the multidimensional function, but mindfulness still you can do it. When one day you will come up to understanding, sitting, walking, day-to-day, everywhere, there will be a blanket application of mindfulness throughout the day. There you can understand how much we are unmindful and negligent, unless otherwise we take this such a thing in a serious way and practice long time. And if you are practicing only, you will really come to understand the full spectrum of human consciousness. Otherwise, what you are, just like blinkers, you see only your likings, only what you know theoretical, only what your teacher's telling, only what is you can prove by the argumenting, only but your views. But that is not limited. Each and every human, if they know how to open the gate through the mindfulness, ultimately you are the one going to get the highest benefit. And the Buddha in the other way simply he says, if you are concerned about your well-being, the best thing is to start this Yonso Manasikara, that radical reflection, and the proximate factor, immediate proximate factor for the radical reflection is the mindfulness. So when this is going to happen, you are opening a big window. So from the worldly point of view, they say the meditating time is just a wastage of time, because it is not going to give any fame, any money, no economical, political and social gains. Therefore, you are hectically running behind these social, economic and political things. But simply, if you are not a good observer and won't get the good knowledge and the seeing, decisions are going to negative. That is why the Buddha says, slow down, develop these qualities and have a full, vigilant and open, diligent approach of each and every moment. So your senility, becoming old age, will be slowed down. You will be developing kind of the rejuvenation. The body will become reshuffled. The knowledge, the health, bodily health also will be renewed. And the mental health also will be good. So that is why it is the best way of considering your well-being. So today that's all time we have. So tomorrow also we will proceed alongly. How can we make use this mindfulness and the radical reflection towards the restraining of the taints, which can be removed by observation, by seeing. So therefore, inside meditation will get more and more clear, lucid definition as and when you go practicing, as well as incorporating these knowledges into your incorporating the Buddha's knowledge into you, and then our life also will be meaningful. We will find the least frictional path in all the phenomena going to happen. Thank you very much for listening. So I thought of giving a Sinhalese translation in the evening at about 6 o'clock. And 6 to 7 we are going to have a question and answer session. And there we can talk about difficulties we find in the practice as well as in theory. So each day we will have that kind of about 2 to 3 hours of either a talk or a discussion.